93 got that beat.
What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. In every episode, we get the distinct pleasure and honor to speak to a brother or sister that's doing exceptional work in every field of human endeavor. And they share their God stories, the ways in which God has been at work in their life, and the ways in which God has been at work through their work. And today, y'all, South Central in the building. I got my brother, our brother, your brother, Brandon Rainey. What's going on, King?
What's good, King? Excited to be here, man.
Man, I'm first. Let's be clear. We gonna ask you about where you got that shirt, because that shirt is fire. So let's start there. But two, a lot comes up for me when I hear and get introduced to brothers and sisters in the arts. Those who see the power of storytelling, but learning about your story over the past couple of months, to be honest, man, it has been beautiful to see not only just how much you have valued the arts and how much it's been vital to your life personally, but the moving parts beyond the arts and how it could be actually an open door for brothers and sisters to find their calling, see their value, see how important they are. You have done that with youth. You've done that with so many people that I think our society, kids sometimes who are often forgotten in our communities, in our society, man, and you've done it faithfully. And so that's a piece of why I have deep respect for you, but also the excellence. You have been a part of productions, timeless productions and tributes and work that I think even behind the scenes people don't know, but your hand has been in it. And so, brother, I have so much respect for the work that you do, for the work that you do in the arts, but also how you kind of maintain faith along the way. And so clearly I can't do your story full justice, man, but we're going to get into it. But who is Brandon Rainey?
Brandon Rainey is 34-year-old servant, really more than anything. South Central LA, as you said, writer, director, speaker by profession, but as I said, more importantly, just a servant and messenger. I like to call myself a messenger of God who's been through life in order to, or I like the phrase of like been broken a lot of times to be given. So it's been a part of who I am, really.
You talk about kind of like being a part of who you are. I think you were able to early on, I think, get an understanding of what's inside of you. You know, I think adversity shows you what you're made of. But you talk about how just like theater has changed your life, saved your life, perhaps, man.
Yeah.
How did theater save your life?
So God really used theater, the arts at an early age, as you said. Definitely spot on in regards to that. Just background, just growing up, grew up, single parent home. And you know, I hate to say this, the typical South Central story, but I mean, it's unfortunately we hear it too often. Single parent home, welfare, of the struggles, just fitting in and wanting to just be a part of certain stuff. Didn't really like play sports or anything like that. Wasn't gifted in those ability, and was just always trying to navigate where do I belong? How do I fit in this? And I stumbled across just a gift to be able to write early on. I did this TED Talk not too long ago, and I was telling the story of my fourth grade teacher. I was so bad. She would make me sit in the corner and write stories, but I actually ended up like falling in love with this sense of like, because I would read the stories and everybody would really be vibing with it. And I was like, yeah, no, I want to keep doing this. And
What they meant for evil. Like you found your own.
for real. Like, and so that transition from like me doing it, like it really got me out of stop being in trouble per se to do it to like one of the top students in the class, just like, just making sure like I could share my stuff. And so from that on to then literally falling into love with theater, like it really helped with insecurities, a lot of the dark places in my mind, was able to escape. And then ultimately, one of my biggest first testimonies that pushed me towards like where I knew like, this is it. Like, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life. And I think I was 16 at the time. And so I've had that one track mind since then, different projects along the way or different versions of it, but haven't really swayed from that moment that like God literally defined it for me. Like, this is it.
Yeah, so you talk about just that opening up a door, obviously writing and seeing seeing the external responses from it, also the escape of it. But you said at 16, like what was that like? What was the okay, I can't turn back? Was it that moment, or what specifically happened at 16?
So specifically, mutual friend of ours actually is a part of this story. Leslie
Rosales. Shout out Leslie.
Yes. So she was senior class president. Went to school, Washington Prep High School. School in South Central LA.
Famous.
And so while there, I fell in love with the art. So that was kind of the big piece of like me first starting to be able to write, first starting to act, stuff like that. So I wrote my first play at 13 and kind of went on that journey. But at 16, I had the opportunity. So she was doing, so 9/11 had just happened. I'm aging myself a little bit. But 9/11 had just happened and it was a year later from 9/11, and the senior class was throwing this big tribute on campus for a year later from 9/11. And so Leslie, as I said, was senior class president. So she was like, hey, do you want to direct a piece for this assembly? And I was like, sure, cool, easy. And so I chose a song. It was a song, Donnie McClurkin, old school song, Stand. Legendary,
yes.
Right? And so inside of it, I created, it was these vignettes that took place inside of the work where you saw people struggling through, like finding a reason to just stand. And for one of the stories that inside of it dealt with like suicide. And as I said, I grew up with just in these dark places a lot and having to navigate towards a lot of those things. And so there's been parts of the journey of even just being suicidal and stuff like that. And for me, it was like every time I did any type of art, it was real life for me. It was, let me put this out. And so, make a long story short, created this piece, and one of the characters is struggling over suicide in this piece. And at the end, the big part of the song Stand, and you have all these dancers on stage that's like pushing this person not to do this. Crazy enough, this is a public school. We got like hundreds and hundreds, probably definitely over thousands of students that's having to watch this. So that was already God where we were able to pull this off and do this. But we finished it. I was at lunchtime, just being a regular kid at this point, just at lunch, just doing it. And somebody came up to me and they said, they introduced themselves to me. And they said the piece that they just watched literally was them. And they ended up showing me, like, literally rolled up their sleeves. They showed me all the cuts that they were doing on their arms. And, with the whole premise of cutting, it's like you do it for the sake of the pain, which is why a certain direction. But she said at this point, I was literally about to move past this and do the final thing. And she had been struggling with that, and she saw the piece, and literally, I'm getting chills right now to be thinking about the moment. But she said literally like she saw God in that on stage. She saw her life on stage and she knew that she could keep pushing.
Woo.
And that was the moment for me. Like, it was just like to know that God, because definitely all praise, all glory, to God in that moment for everything, because the vision, everything came so clearly from God. But to know that God could use the arts, not just personally for me, but also now in a way that could minister, could inspire, could empower someone else. I was so like, it was locked in, like, wow.
Bro, this is powerful and beautiful. I think even from, I mean, many people who listen to this and watch this, many people may not even believe in God, right? Who listen to this, the executives and people, but there's the story about even, kind of those who kind of had doubts about Jesus and, Thomas. And it was that moment of like looking at the hands and, really did that happen? And I think that's the type of moment that you had where you're like, fam, wow, this is beyond me. This is bigger than me, which I think for many people, when they realize it's a God thing, when it's a bigger than them, they see the impact it has on other people. This stand piece is huge because I think, one, it's a gift to be able to figure out so early on that this is something that you want to do and at least stay one track with it. But there is something also about being, I think, a creative in these times and sustaining sustaining work, particularly work that may require funding, outside funding from different entities. And then you're also working with, it takes a lot of faith. And so when did though you were one track and clear, you had a number of moments when you questioned whether or not you should even continue, you should even be doing this. I mean, so like, talk about just kind of like, after that moment, you're kind of, your things are happening. You're still kind of dedicated to this work. But when you had to yourself had to kind of fall back on that stand, a moment continually to keep the work going.
Yeah. It's been so many moments along the journey. Fast forward, I went to college for this. So I went to Morehouse College. Mm-hmm. When I got there, I was just like, I want to continue to do this stuff. So it's been just opposition along the journey. So opposition there was, the way it was set up at the time. No disrespect to anybody in Morehouse administration looking at this, but they did a bad job in like creating the theater program. It was kind of like a just put together thing. So it was more so designed for actors and, stuff like that. And that wasn't really the track I wanted to go on. So I created a drama ministry that was on campus, Morehouse Spelman Clark. And so we got together. And at first it was rough. Like, people were just like, nah, what is this? But then really just had a moment once again with God, reposted flyers, just rebranded it like, hey, auditions for this new urban gospel stage play. And we had a crowd come out. We started to do shows on campus to the point now we started to do like tours with it. I brought, it was like 53 of us from Atlanta coming to LA and performing at all these high schools and shows at different colleges, and churches was like helping us out. And so that journey was interesting because I got a lot of opposition from the actual like school, the department, because it's like, yo, like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be focused on like our work, the school's department stuff. And it was just like, that's just not my calling here. Like I was here for a different reason. So just navigating towards that, God opened a lot of doors on that journey where I was able to see stuff that like, it was almost glimpses. Like it was, if I told those stories, it'll be like, yo, that's some make-believe stuff. Just how God was just really using the arts to really like just save and just encourage and just even reach people who just regular stuff wasn't reaching them. Like, they did the church thing, they did the different campus Bible studies, but then when they saw their life on stage, it was like, wow. And so that was those moments. Fast forward, I navigated when I graduated from college. I wanted to like everybody, I wanted to be a big time director and a writer and stuff like that. And nothing worked out for me. Like everything that I applied for in Atlanta, because I wanted to stay there, didn't work. Got this internship opportunity with Spike Lee in New York, but it was not paid. So I struggled paying for college. So it was like, how can I, go to this new city with nothing? And it forced me. The one offer I had that was set up for me was to go back to my old high school, where that moment I shared earlier took place, and to teach drama there and to lead their performing arts department. And I struggled. I'm like 21 years old. Like
you're like, I left for a reason,
Yeah. But like when I say it was God orchestrating, like all things working together for good, every no, every door closed, every like thing that I thought I had that didn't work out. Like I was supposed to be there, because when I got there, like the lives that I was able to, and not just even what I was able to give what I was able to get to along that journey, that set me into the space of working with young people. And I mean, we were doing campus ministry at a public school now, like fast forward, like still doing those type of pieces that we were doing. We were doing the classics and all that stuff like that too. But it was just like the stuff we were able to get away with, the lives along the journey, like just the people, to this day, still have those relationships with, still work with a lot of those same students from, back then. And it's just been a piece. But as I said, opposition. Most recent opposition, working with the city, reopening a situation with them, and an atheist organization did this big complaint about us getting funding through the city. And so we were shut down for a couple of months, but the parents were devastated, the students were devastated, and I mean, we all went to the one place that we knew could navigate and turn things over, and we're still standing, still strong.
Yeah, man, this is,
that's just
longer. I love this piece. I want to come back to this piece because I think this consistent piece of opposition. I think sometimes people think when God calls them, it's just going to be running. You're going to run through the fields and the doves come out. The doves come from the floor, and you wearing all white, and you like, there's no challenge. You don't really go to the wilderness after you get. That's the reality of what you've been through. I want to go deeper here, man, a bit, because when I hear about art reflecting things that are on the inside, right, where you've been able to direct plays and create stories that you could relate to, there's this interesting paradox that I've seen, obviously, in our arts. We've seen where on one hand, like it's almost like the dynamic where back in the day people were just like, man, they used to make the joke like they liked Sad Mary J 411 Mary, right? But if you have people understand the reality of her life, right? But we benefit from like that, but she was suffering. But we've lost so many creators who ironically they create stories, they sing songs that just give peace and that help people heal, but they themselves are not. And so how have you like navigated the dynamic of how close can is my assignment to write for healing, right? Is my assignment to write for aspiration beyond the healing, right? How do you think about when you create stories to say, how do I create stories that bring people from where I'm at to move forward? Because I think that there's just this tension that I think artists have of just describing what they're going through to aspiring what they're going to get past. How have you navigated that, man?
That's definitely a deep question. It's the balances of stuff, because there are moments where, as for any artist, whether on stage, off stage, on the screen, behind the camera, where it's this personal stuff that we connect to and that we're grabbing hold to. Sometimes it can be dangerous. Sometimes it can come with some warfare and just some levels of just like, opening up some old wounds and some real scars. For me, I've been able to really navigate through some of those moments is looking at the bigger picture, understanding that like it wasn't for me. And my big motto for me personally is like, yo, like I didn't go through this stuff for nothing. So like if I'm gonna go through some stuff, I need it to mean something on the other side. So this work has been able to be that reminder or that like woosah of, that was rough, but there was a purpose for it. Like there was a story that came out of, there was a character. And I can't say that anybody watching this that that's necessarily the smartest thing or the most, I know we're all mental health conscious now, but for me, it's been the thing that has kept me for sure. It's kept me at peace. It's looking at the glory on the other side. And the glory on the other side isn't riches or fame or none of that stuff like that. Like now God is completely taking care of me, like where even in those moments where I didn't know how stuff was gonna work out, it's worked out. But I think that's the bonus part for me. If I could just keep it completely honest, is looking at the other side of it, being able to see like that some type of work, some type of something creative, some type of impact, some type of seeds have been sown. Like that's enough to be like, okay, this was worth it.
I think this is instructive because I think one of the things that people can deeply relate to are moments of doubt and moments of, should I continue? Should I, you could have, kind of post-graduation been like, maybe this wasn't my call and took a hard left and kind of took another path. How have you been able to just discern, or how has God been speaking to you around just like knowing when things are ending and when things are, what things to persevere in, what things that you're supposed to close, right? Because I can imagine you create a lot of projects. You start a lot of things. You say, like this program, we're going to continue to help you. We're going to continue to give them opportunities to play. Right? That's one piece. Like, how do you think about even seasons or when things end or not end? Because I think whether you're an entrepreneur or you're creative and you have stories, there's the extreme where people hear like the struggle rapper at 55, right? Everybody has that story in their head, right? Getting a mixtape versus I just really believe in this. How do I know that God wants me to continue with this project or with this thing, or that he may not be detouring me to try something else? I want to get into that muck and mire. I know it's not clean, but I just think you have an interesting perspective on it.
I am a firm believer of closed and open doors. But I also am not the best at like navigating it myself. Like one of the favorite cats in the Bible, Joseph, I feel like I can, and that's an extremity because, he had a rough situation, but I can relate because there was a purpose designed for him, but there was a lot of glimpses along the way that could have felt comfortable, but wasn't purpose. And so God literally was like closing doors and when I say closing doors, it's like some type of obstacle pushed him into another place to push him to another place. And that's how I really describe my life. It's like the moments that I wanted to latch onto and try and like fight for, like God would just like literally like just close that door. Like something would end for me, and I'm tripping for a moment, and I'm like, why and what's up, and and then it's this clear sense, and there's this opening door that's slowly opening. And I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like that had to, okay. And that's literally been my life. So it's an unfair question because like, it's been rich and so like beautifully, like where on every side so far, and I don't jinx myself or nothing like that, but whatever that means. I'm rocking with you. But, so that's been at peace. But I say glimpses, and this doesn't directly answer the question, but kind of is. We get those glimpses along the journey because there's been those moments of the big deals. There's been the moments of like, yo, like this is about to like, this TV show is gonna sell, or somebody is like this project, and we're gonna take this on tour and all this stuff like that. Or we're gonna give you this X amount of money, and it never comes. And you get so excited, you get worked up, and you start telling everybody, and it's just like, it's not. I mean, I literally dealt with this last week. I'm opening a visual performing arts school out here in Cali, and we've been struggling with enrollment. And like last week, the board decided like, hey, we don't have the enrollment we need because of COVID. Still some facility challenges. So it's next. We can't open until fall 2022. And my ego got involved for a moment because I'm like, I've been like promoting it and announcing it. I told everybody it was this big announcement. We brought everybody to campus and showed it off and like, you know, all this stuff. And now I got to go back and be like, yeah, no, it didn't work. We didn't pull it off. And, you know, and so that's a realistic situation. I don't know the other side of that right now. I mean, the cool thing is it's just a little over a year away, but I don't know why this door closed to not be ready by fall. But I do feel like, I promise to God, I feel confident that like it's gonna make sense. You know, like life has taught me at this point, because I've been stubborn, I've been like just you know, I've got myself really worked up and frustrated along the journey, and it's like, you know, it always makes sense.
I think that there is we don't get a scantron, like we don't get results like after every quarter from God saying, yo, you nailed that one, and like you got this all. We ain't sure until it's all said and done. We're not going to be sure, but you know, we actually got to walk accordingly. You know, I think that was this piece of our conversation is really, really helpful, because no matter what you're doing, I think there's this doubt of like, am I doing the right thing? Okay, when am I supposed to continue? When is it? When is perseverance calling? And when is like humility and, you know, like, you know, when do I put that down? When, you know, how do I know that and I think this sometimes I think is the invitation for many people of faith, right? To say, you know what? Like, there's no formula that's going to help me decide or understand if this is going to move forward or not. But I have to understand something beyond here, or I have to be tapped into something or belief beyond what I'm seeing. Because I think that this is a common struggle for anybody, right? For anyone. I have to ask, because I'm so intrigued by creators. As I said, I love movies. I collect movies. I love storytelling, but I'm always curious about the writers and the stories they tell, but also the stories they haven't told yet. What stories haven't you told yet, or haven't you produced yet, that you're saying like, you know what, as God continues to give me the opportunity to help people, to serve people through my gifts, this is a story or this is a play I haven't got out yet. Now, obviously, I want to, you know, keep confidentiality for certain things, right? But you know, what are some themes of stories that you feel you haven't touched yet, or have you felt like you've gotten them all out and you just now are finding creative ways to tell the same type of story?
Still trying to see the same thing. I'm trying to think about what I want to talk about. Had some stuff stolen along the journey, you know.
Yeah. I would just say thematic.
Yeah. I mean, I could say this. So really been in this. So there's a play I did recently called Hello America, and it's kind of like the For Colored Girls for Black men, and so we've been dealing with like toxic masculinity and just that journey of what it is to be Black man in America, and retelling our own man laws. So really recreating that stuff. As I said, a lot of the struggles for me was like feeling like, because I didn't have a dad, or because I wasn't good with sports, because like it was just these these things that made me feel like I just wasn't, like I didn't fit in, or I wasn't a man, just stuff like that. So that's something I really want to continue to explore. Just been doing a lot of just writing in that space with that project. Our goal, I'm just trying to raise the money for it, is to really film it and just do more stuff with it. But that's a tunnel I want to stay in for a little bit, in regards to really, because it's not enough stuff for us. Like, you have so many. There's no knock to it, but you just have so much stuff just for women. And you have networks design, like you think of like
BT, like the exact BT her and everything like that.
But there's a lot of space here for this, so I really want to do that, tell that story. I want to continue to be in the space of a project really interesting right now is this correlation between the time of like the Harlem Renaissance and just the perseverance of just the arts during that decade, and looking at where we are now, 100 years later, as we enter the new 20s. Kind of looking at that correlation. So that's some stuff. I'm going to stop talking about that.
I was just like,
I'm excited about it. And then on a biblical piece, I really want to tell. So I wrote a play a couple years ago, or a while back at this point, on the story of David. But I want to revisit that because there's a lot, from dysfunction to just daddy issues to father issues to love, lust. Like, I want to tell it for real. Like, my big piece with the Bible, and that's what I love being able to do shows through it, is like, we read the Bible too cute and we read it too fast. Like, it's some real, like, it's a crazy story. It's like, even if you take away the spiritual sense, like if you just read it for literature's sake, it's some crazy stuff. So like, a lot of people will be able to look at David and see themselves, but also see a lot of the traumas and a lot of that stuff that's inside of it. And so that's the story that I like to tell. Stuff that's not like over, like the cute Vacation Bible School stuff. Like, that's not the script that I'm not pumping out those. And it all belongs. So people who do that, cool. Like, not knocking it. But for me, let's get deep. It'll be fun along the journey, but let's uncover some stuff.
Bro, you and I got chat about something offline with that, but I love where you're going with this. I love the work and what you're doing with this. And I think it's like, the picture of, continue to have visions to create that help people, I think, give you the energy to keep going. Recognizing the thing. I just want to ask even just a very practical question for you. One thing that I think is beautiful, as you talked about, it wasn't that you were just pouring out, you were getting back. You've been able to see the stories of generations. You could say generations of young people who, when they come into the program with you, to when they leave, and them being able to realize dreams and opportunities and relationships, and you're seeing someone's life being changed through what you've been able to steward over time. One, how have you been able to maintain relationships? That's just like one, and two, do you see that as kind of God's, nourishment of your soul, to keep going in the work that you've been doing?
So first one, it's hard. I've taught hundreds of students at this point. And so it's really, really hard because there's a lot of expectations now, from the baby showers to the weddings to the, it's just a lot happening in each person's lives. They'll be like, wow, I forgot. I'm sorry. Please, I'll try and do better. But then there's the ones that kind of just stand out more than others sometimes. We just did more life with each other, or, we just worked longer with each other. So it just made more sense. But yeah, when I see, that's really been, if I had to say the biggest motivation, it has been seeing those, spot on what you just said, seeing their stories, seeing their situations. I mean, if there's time, I can even tell you one of the students that always
please.
Young lady, and so Leslie's also a part of this. So she came back to help me out way later. Or not way later, but when I came back to work at Washington, she came back and, was helping. But we had a student, young lady, and she never minds when I tell her to say her name. Her name is Kimberly. But just when she came as a freshman, she was like just all black, and nothing wrong with all black. I like to wear it sometimes. Make you look skinnier, but
little contour. We get
it. But we could tell she had like the cuts on her arms. She would just hoodie to herself. And so one day I got a chance to get to really, really know her. She was a boyfriend she had was like, she was want to have sex with her. And she was refusing to, and literally was trying to beat her up because she said no. And so we ended up hiding her in the auditorium. And that day I found out so much more about her life. She grew up in several different foster homes, and then ended up being adopted by her grandmother and grandfather. But that was along with like 6 other sisters there in the house, from the verbal abuse, mental abuse. She was raped even before coming into high school. Fast forward, like the arts, literally, like I watched the arts transform her, like from this shy person who didn't see the value in living to literally like finding her gift, finding her voice. She went on to just do several shows, and she was just like a force to be reckoned with. Like it was crazy. Senior year, her and another cast member, car pulls up, we all in South Central, shoots inside the car. She's shot in the hand, shot in the back of the head. Her weave actually connects most of the bullet, so it only really like pierced her head. But now it's already all this trauma, the rape, the abuse, her mom and dad is on drugs on the streets. Like literally, I remember taking her home. She's like, yeah, that's my mom right there. Like drugged out on the streets. Now shot, but she still goes on, graduates from high school, gets into college. While in college, gets a chance to stand with John Legend, talking to hundreds of foster kids about her life, about her story. Fast forward, she graduates from college, gets into UC San Diego, full ride, getting her master's in acting. One out of like 13 students, full scholarship there. Fast forward, she graduates from UC San Diego. A play she wrote about her life and some other plays start to take off. And now I would even say she's a way better writer than me, to be honest. Like I hire her to come like coach actors and, work with them. She's on her way next month actually to do this big playwriting fellowship that they're paying her for. So when I think about that, and that's just one story, we could be here all day if I took you through them. And so I look at their resilience, I look at their perseverance, but I also look at how God was able to use something that was a special gift for me. This little secret of the arts, what it did for me, they were able to still use that same thing, and it transformed their lives. And that's where I say all this stuff makes sense to me, is because, we just were at the right place at the right time. And I was able to meet these people that I am able to look back on and like, wow, like if she's that resilient, what am I tripping about right now?
Woo! Fam, fam, like I think last week I remember saying something like, you answering your call is you answering a prayer. That you being obedient over these years has been prayers answered, even those who didn't know that, who didn't even, like Hannah, they groaned that prayer, like this young lady. And if you did not do that, clearly God is sovereign. He could figure out ways to do things, but the work that you did was vital that moment, in the same way in that moment when that person saw your play the first time. Your answered call is an answered prayer. And I think that's just a beautiful note, at least even the bookmark, even the conversation, because I think it's so powerful that you've kept going. But I think for anyone who's kind of struggling to keep going, when you see the fruit or you see the impact, or being able to look into the impact, what is the bigger picture about it? I think that's a well of motivation and inspiration. Brother, man, I obviously I'm not gonna put all your stuff out here, man. But we gotta ask, man, how could what do you have coming up? How could people best support you and connect with you, good brother?
So I am on social media on the gram. So at BC Rainey. So BC, then my last name Rainey, like rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Also cbgarts.org. What's coming up? I'm just bouncing back out of this pandemic. The world is opening, so I'm looking forward to more live stuff. Also doing some virtual projects as well. So if you just plug in, Love Game is a show that's happening through YouTube Live, so that's virtual. And then also, in the fall, going to be doing some stuff out public. But with the world the way it is now, we've learned that like people outside of LA want to see stuff too. So I'm gonna make sure that you can catch it virtually, not and in person. So that's the new strategy, moving forward. So,
Bro,
definitely,
bro, this is absolutely dope, man. I'm just thankful for your ministry. I'm thankful for your work. I'm thankful for the lives that you touched. I don't think that I could fully capture it, but I think every single life of the people who are on their path because of the work of your hands, man, I'm thankful. But we thank God for you, bro. So, brother, all salute. Thank you for sharing.
I thank you for this opportunity and for thinking about me. It means a lot. For real.
No problem, brother, man. This ain't the only conversation we're gonna have, man. I say that in faith, man. All right, salute. All right.
All right, perfect.
Peace.